U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara formalizes their commitment to trilateral security cooperation in response to ongoing threats from North Korea. The agreement made in Tokyo outlines the framework for high-level policy consultations, information sharing, and joint military exercises. This marks the first institutionalized effort to trilateral defense collaboration, reaffirming the nation's commitment to a new era of security cooperation. In local news, with the peak vacation season underway, large crowds are flocking to Haeundae and Gwangalli beaches in Busan. According to Haeundae-gu District Office today, approximately 260,600 visitors visited Haeundae Beach on Sunday, the most in a single day this year based on big data collected from mobile phone signals. On Saturday, there were some 117,000 visitors, bringing the total number of visitors over the weekend to around 378,000. Songjeong Beach in Busan, or Haeundae-gu rather, also saw 38,000 visitors on Saturday, 55,499 on Sunday. Gwangalli Beach in Suyeong-gu had around 72,000 visitors on Saturday and 53,000 on Sunday. As schools, kindergartens, academies, and workplaces enter the vacation season this week, the number of vacationers is expected to peak. A 20,000-ton container ship collided with the end of a breakwater and ran aground while entering Busan port on the 28th, reportedly due to dense sea fog impairing visibility. According to the Busan Coast Guard, the container ship collided with the end of the breakwater's tetrapod at Jodo Breakwater in Yeongdo-gu, Busan, around 2:05 a.m. on the 28th, resulting in the vessel running aground. The Panamanian-flagged ship had 18 crew members, including 8 Koreans and 10 Myanmar nationals, who were all rescued by the Coast Guard. The ship's crew claims that the accident was caused by a steering error due to the dense sea fog, which limited visibility to about 300 meters. The vessel was navigating towards Busan port between Jodo Breakwater and Orukdo Breakwater when it changed direction too close to the breakwater. In international news, President Nicolas Maduro has been declared the winner of Venezuela's presidential election based on partial results released by the Electoral Council. Elvis Amoroso, the head of the National Electoral Council and close associate of Maduro, announced that with 80% of the votes counted, Maduro secured 51.2% of the vote, while his main opponent received 44.02%. The Venezuelan opposition, which had unified behind candidate Edmundo Gonzalez in an effort to end Maduro's 11-year tenure, has alleged significant fraud in the vote counting process and pledged to contest the election results. And now taking a quick look at the weather here. It's currently 30 degrees Celsius in Busan City with a feel-like temperature at 31. The mercury is forecast to peak around 34 this afternoon. And that'll have to do it for this hour's news. Thank you for joining us. You're listening to BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Your best choice. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Coming up next is 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever. BEFM Busan 영어방송.
Strength is something many of us desire. It would be nice to say, I'm strong, right? But we might usually be thinking of physical strength. Physical strength is kind of believed to be essential for both confidence and just kind of generally feeling safe. But what about mental strength? Isn't mental strength just as essential? Mental strength can help us keep our emotions, thoughts, and behavior in check. Today, we're actually going to talk about what you should and shouldn't do if you want to be mentally strong. It's Monday, July 29th. This is the 2 p.m. Reboot. Let's get it started. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. I'm your host, Casey McKeever. You just heard the song The Craving by 21 Pilots to start the show off. Really interesting how this song was created. According to the frontman, Tyler Joseph, he married his wife, Jenna Black, in March 2015. And actually, in this song, he's kind of talking about his insecurities and questioning his ability to express how much he loves her. He said, I wrote this song about my relationship with my wife, but kind of tapped into earlier in our relationship when I was trying to woo her, when he was trying to, convince her like I'm the guy. But it was interesting. I wrote it at the kitchen table. With a couple of kids on either side of us, kind of a crazy time to be thinking back to when we weren't sure if we were going to be a thing or not. So he wrote this song when they were actually already married with children, but he was reflecting on before their marriage. And he says, and here I was writing a song on the ukulele with 2 children eating their food on either side of me. So that's kind of where the song came about. So even way later, having success with his band, having a successful marriage with children, and he's still thinking back to that time when he was like, oh, insecure. The life of an artist, right? You're listening to us live in the studio here on Busan on this Monday afternoon. It's a hot one out there. Stay safe, stay cool. It is roasting today for sure. You're listening to us here on BEFM 90.5 in Busan and 103.3 FM in the Gijang, Jeongwon, and Noksan areas. We're broadcasting in Seoul on TBS EFM 101.3 FM and in Gwangju on GFN 98.7 FM. Thanks for joining us wherever you might be at today on this hot Monday afternoon. It's also getting hot on YouTube. If you want to join us there, you can search BEFM or Busan영어방송. And you can join us on the streaming right there. But I should let you know, when we stream the songs, we have to mute them because there is a music copyright issue. So the rest of the show you'll hear, but we won't be able to stream the music for you on YouTube. We apologize for the inconvenience, and we hope to get that fixed as soon as possible. The show is uninterrupted on FM radio, of course. And we have our very own smartphone app. You can just find if you go to the App Store on your phone, any App Store, search BEFM or 부산영어방송, and you can find our app and download it right there and listen to the show completely uninterrupted. And you can comment and send us messages that way as well. We've got a lot coming up for you in the show today. In hour number 1, we've got Hot Off the Press first, and we will play 2 new songs that have recently been released and give you some information about both the songs and the artists behind them. We've also got Need to Know today because it's Monday. There's a lot you need to know, right? We got to catch up from the weekend, right? And today we've got Chris coming in, and he's going to bring in some stories that are perhaps not from the mainstream media, but things we still need to know. In hour number 2, we've got our daily list, and it is related to what I was talking about the beginning of the show. I was talking about being mentally strong. I don't think I'm going to boast and say I'm mentally strong in any way, but it's something I work on. Physically, I'm quite not there either. But okay, these are things, people are always a work in progress, right? We never hit the exact goal we want to be, do we? I don't think that's possible, right? We have to keep striving, right? Otherwise, what happens when you achieve all your goals? Game over? I don't know. I don't know what happens there. So we're going to talk specifically about mental strength and how to increase it. And there are 10 tips I'm going to share today to work on your mental strength. And another way to think about that is being resilient. So when you face challenges, you can overcome them instead of letting them overcome you. And also, because today is Monday, we will have me, myself, and I. We do this every Monday, and I talk about perhaps human psychology, human behavior, why we are why we do things the way we do, and why we are we, right? So it's related to this idea of being mentally strong as well. And it's the flip side. So the daily list, we're going to talk about tips how to be mentally strong. And this article is actually something I read over the weekend, and I was like, ooh, that's kind of cool. This is from a doctor who has studied mentally strong people for a living and reveals 7 things that they never do. So people who are mentally strong, things that they do not do. So we're going to give you both sides, things to do and things that you shouldn't do to increase your mental strength, your mental resilience. And of course, today we will have our new theme for the perfect playlist. We have a new theme every week. It's Monday, so why not the moon, right? That's how we start off this week. We're gonna do songs about the moon and the perfect playlist throughout this week. So we'll have 2 songs coming up for you on that theme. And the moon, it gets a lot of credit for creating kind of poetry, creating different feelings in people, and there's a reason for that. It's got a strong pull on us, literally and figuratively. And of course, I will be checking your messages throughout the show, so if you want to say hi, let me know how you're doing, how you're staying cool in the heat. I took a motorcycle ride here to the station today, and it was not enjoyable. For the first time in a while, it was not an enjoyable ride. Even by the beach, it was just like, ugh, it was hot air. And Choi Hisuk Nim is saying, I don't want to leave the air conditioning. I am with you. I'm in the air conditioning right now. I'm not leaving this room. You won't see me even stand up today. Even during the breaks, I think I'll just be sitting right here, just under the air conditioning, enjoying. Yes, it's going to be a tough one this week, I think, but we have to hang in there, right? And of course, if you do want to reach us, you can message us here at 샵9050 or pound 9050 for 101. You can reach us for free at BEF, or if you search on the Kakao Talk app, you search BFM or Busan you can add us and then send us messages that way. And as I mentioned before, we have a smartphone app that you can find in your app store. You can search BEFM or Busan download the app, then you log in and then you can leave us comments there. What should you tell me? I want to know today, what is one of your greatest strengths? So it could be perhaps something, if you want to think about strength as a physical thing, sure, maybe some kind of talent or some kind of thing that you're good at. But usually when we talk about strengths in this way, we're talking about kind of like a mental or perhaps emotional strength. 가장 큰 장점은 무엇인가요? I was practicing the 장점. Yes. So anything that you feel like is your personal strength that you want to share, that would be really cool to let me know. I think one of my greatest strengths is being patient. And this is something I had to work on a lot. I have become a lot more patient over time. I had zero patience for a large part of my life, and I have had to work on that a lot. And I think, I think I can confidently say it is now one of my greatest strengths. I have an unbelievable patience. I can't believe it. If I interviewed myself 10 years ago, I wouldn't even have the patience to talk to myself, I think. You know what I mean? So yeah, something that I've worked on a lot and improved, patience. That is one of my greatest strengths these days. Organization, not so much. You can probably guess. So let me know, what is one of your greatest strengths? I'll give you some time to think about it. We're going to listen to the song Cracker Man by Stone Temple Pilots, and then we'll be back with Hot Off the Press. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. You just heard the song Cracker Man by Stone Temple Pilots off of their 1992 debut album, Core. It took me back a little bit. Now it is time for Hot Off the Press, and we're going to go the other way. We're not going to the past. We're looking at the future of music. We're going to talk about two of the newest songs that have recently been released, and we'll give you some information about them. And, you know, it's hard to keep up. There's so many new songs released every week, but we try to pick some that we think you'll really enjoy. Our first song today is Lucky by Halsey, and this new song, Lucky, samples a beloved hit single by Britney Spears. See if you can catch it. You'll probably notice. The 29-year-old singer Halsey also interpolates Monica's song Angel of Mine into this song as well. So there's a lot of the past in the present, it turns out. Halsey initially teased the song earlier this month by telling fans, "When I was 5, it always felt like Britney was singing directly to me. 24 years later, these words hit different. Love you forever." I guess the love you is to Britney. And I hope Britney feels the love in the paycheck because she should get paid for this song as well, I'm assuming. Our second song for today is Free by Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding. And this pair have actually had a long-standing creative relationship. They've had a bunch of singles over the past few years, generating hit after hit. This new single, Free, finds them leaning back on millennial pop touchstones while also overhauling them. Curious. There's a kind of renegade feel when these two get together. The song Free touches on trance production elements while also nodding to hyperpop. Ladies and gentlemen, we are definitely in the future. I know that was English, but I don't know what that meant. The work of these two artists have navigated the industry on their own terms and come out the other side. And there's kind of a pleasingly meta feel to the way that this duo reinterpolate these 2000s tropes while retaining a wonderful pop song at the core. So our two songs for today, we've got first up Lucky by Halsey, followed by Free by Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding. You're listening to the 2 p.m. Reboot, and that last song was Free by Calvin Harris and Ellie Goulding. I think I got a little bit of the reference to what they were talking about, like throwbacks. I was feeling some Stranger Things and that little at the end part of the song there. And before that was the song Lucky by Halsey, and you could definitely hear the Britney Spears influence in that song as well. So those were our 2 songs for Hot Off the Press for today. And my question today is, what's your biggest fear? What's your biggest strength? Oops, my bad. I can't read. That's all right. What's your biggest strength? So 가장 큰, I practiced how to say this one. 장점. There it is. 가장 큰 장점은 무엇인가요? And I did get an answer I wanted to share from Nur-nim. From Nur says, hi Casey and the RB team. Cool, RB team, I like that. The Reboot team. Happy Monday. My greatest strength, multitasking maybe. Other than that, I have no idea. But I'm pretty clear that I'm not a patient person. Yes, I shared that my greatest strength is patience. It is something I have worked on long and hard. And I have 2 children, so I have kind of no choice now to be patient. You know, have to be a parent, then you have to be patient. I think it just kind of has to go hand in hand. So patience is one of mine. But Nur saying multitasking, that is certainly not my strength at all. As you can see, I tried to look at one paper and then another one, and then it doesn't work. Multitasking is probably really a useful thing to be good at these days, but that is not one I have not succeeded at that, no matter how much I try. So thanks for the message. If you want to send in your biggest or your greatest strength, 가장 큰 장점은 무엇인가요? You can reach us for 101 at shop 9050 or pound 9050. You can reach us for free on Kakao Talk if you search BEFM or 부산영어방송. And we do have our own smartphone app you can find in your app store if you want to download that, and you can leave us comments through that as well. So thanks for the message, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Chris and Need to Know. Welcome back. It is time for Need to Know, and Chris is sitting in for Andrew. Andrew's on vacation. Thanks so much for coming in this afternoon, Chris. Welcome to the studio.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Well, and I did want to ask also the question of the day for you. What is one of your greatest strengths?
Oh, that's tough. We all have so many, but I think probably the greatest one for me is my creativity.
Oh, that's a good one to have.
Yeah. I've actually been writing a bunch of music lately. So
really,
it's one of those things that it's if you want to do that, you have to have that creativity there.
Right.
So
can I ask what kind of music do you write?
I've been writing mostly choir music lately.
Really?
Yeah. For like the classical style. So it's not going to be very popular.
That's all right.
Don't
go after the popularity, right?
Don't need the popularity, but it does give me a release and give me something to do, and it's fun and a challenge. So
awesome. And this is something that I imagine. So I know your segment is Need to Know, but I feel like I need to know more about this. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So when you say like choir music, I imagine that means that you write it with people singing in mind, largely.
Yeah, it's been it's people, a large group of people singing. We have I sing with the choir, and I've been writing for them. So it's a large group of people. We have about 70 people singing together, and accompaniment, and quite nice. And the last piece I wrote actually used some traditional Korean instruments, the piri and the taepyeongso, and it was quite.
Can you say that again? The what?
Piri and the taepyeongso.
Okay, I don't know what either one of those are.
Piri is kind of like a reed instrument. If you imagine
like a flute, kind of
taking the just the pipe part of a bagpipe.
Yeah.
And you have that same type of sound.
Oh, so the pipe part of the bagpipe?
Yeah.
Not the bag. So
not the bag itself.
Throw that bag away.
Throw the bag out.
As far away as possible.
Yeah, because it just makes it too much.
Don't tell Laura McLucky I said
and
that.
the taepyeongso is, if you've ever listened to a Korean marching band.
Okay.
And you hear that really high-pitched, whining sound instrument.
We play something on the station here, right? One of the station IDs where it's it's a really high sound.
Yeah, that's from that instrument.
Very cool. So you'll write the music for both the singers and the accompaniment?
Yes.
Very cool. We're learning a lot today about Chris. This is cool. Thank you for the peek into your life. But of course, we're here for Need to Know as well. And so what happens is, in this segment, Chris has brought some stories that you feel we need to know, right?
Yes, yes.
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, first, a quick question.
Yeah.
We all know the intangible cultural heritage traditions. What is your favorite?
Well, I know those 4 words separately. So intangible cultural heritage tradition. So I'm guessing like things like it could be anything like art forms, like making pottery, for example, or it could be making food.
Making food, anything that like really is like an art form that you can't hold afterwards. So making pottery,
intangible, right.
intangible. So not pottery, but definitely like dancing, music, things like that.
Right. Okay.
One of my favorite Korean traditions is the free diving tradition, where people in Jeju, women usually
해녀.
go down, harvest mollusks, seaweeds, and other life forms. We call it the Korean mermaid tradition.
Right. Okay. I'm a big fan of that as well.
Yeah, no, this tradition is hundreds of years old and is an amazing thing to watch. But the training for the hanyo takes about 7 years, and there's been a big push in Korea and other places that have this tradition to make more lucrative careers.
So that's not quite lucrative, right?
Yeah, doesn't pay very well.
Right.
So the number of women who do this has been steadily declining, and in Jeju, the average age is about 70.
Wow. Okay.
This includes the youngest diver, who is 34 years old.
So like the average is heavily weighted by
the elderly population.
Right.
And unfortunately, because of this, the tradition is in trouble, and the number of hanyo are plunging.
Right.
But you may know this, but Korea isn't the only place who has this type of female diving tradition where women go into the sea to make a living collecting things from the ocean this way. It also is in Japan as well.
Okay.
They have a similar tradition of female free divers. In fact, the number of free divers in one of the districts, in the Shiamari district in I'm always mispronouncing this one, Minamiboshi,
that sounds right.
has dropped so low that during the last Sea Diver Festival last week, they had to turn to volunteers. In fact, they had about 80 divers in the water. Most of them were volunteers.
So they're actually not full-time free divers as they should be, right? Because they just didn't have any actually people still doing that job. So they had we need to have the festival, and we have to have somebody to stand in for them, right?
Yes, yes.
So what is the idea of the festival? What's it about?
It's a traditional festival held every year in late July. It's held to pray for a bountiful fishing season, and includes fireworks, traditional dancing, the things that you would expect at a festival.
Sure.
And what the highlight of the night is a night swim by the free divers who dress in the traditional gear, not the wetsuits,
right?
But traditional white, and swim out into the ocean holding torches.
That sounds difficult.
Yeah, that's why it's
the torches lit.
A skill for seasoned divers and swimmers. In previous years, more than 100 women swam into the water. All of them were divers, but this year the numbers were so low that most of them were do other things for a living.
Right, and I guess it kind of makes sense. It's kind of if you think about it, this is the reason. But so why did they decide they had to rely on volunteers this year?
Yeah, well, the Japanese free diving industry, if you could call it that, is following a trend that is very similar to the Korean hanyo. The number of women that make a living has been decreasing, and the average age there has been increasing as well.
Right.
If you take a look at 2006, the average age of a diver was 68. And in 2023, the average age was 70. And the number of women free divers fell about 70% in that time.
That's a huge drop.
Huge drop, yeah.
Okay, so that looks like a bleak future for the industry. I mean, I can guess, like you mentioned before, people want more lucrative jobs. So I'm assuming that's a big reason. Is that why people aren't wanting to take the job?
Well, part of it's that, but to be honest, it's a really hard job.
Oh, yeah. There is that too.
Yeah, like think about it. Like many of these women spend 5 to 6 hours at a time out in the water, which just takes a physical toll on you.
Sure.
They don't use scuba gear or air tanks, so it's very physically demanding. You're in there in all different kinds of weather. Each dive, you plunge up to 20 meters, holding your breath for 3 to 4 minutes.
3 to 4 minutes? Like
3 to 4 minutes,
wow.
at least. There are some women who can go much, much longer. Wow. You deal with rough currents, poor visibility, jellyfish, cold waters. I mean, they've even spotted sharks in Jeju now.
Oh, because sharks are on the move worldwide, right?
Yeah.
Because of the global warming
waters.
stuff, right? Yes.
And which is, it's the cold waters is easier to deal with a wetsuit. But
right.
Still, you do all of this and you get a basket of abalone or urchins or slugs, and then you don't get much money for it.
Right.
And it also takes years of training. It's 7 years of training to be safe at it. And really, it's far easier to go to university and work a desk job in finance.
Well, so that, I mean, all of this is a reasonable point. It's just like they've got competition from the entire seafood industry as well. So, of course, it's hard for them to make money. And obviously, it's a dangerous job. So the number of divers is shrinking. But if it gets to the point where they don't even have the divers to do the festival, why even have the festival anymore?
Well, apart from angering the sea gods, you don't want to do that.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, I take it back.
Sorry, joking aside. Japan's population is already aging, and it's a difficult place away from, and it's difficult for places away from the big city to keep their children around and even attract tourism.
Right.
So keeping these traditional festivals alive brings these people to the region and allows them to bring in the much needed tourism dollars. But there's also the possibility of attracting new people to the industry. One woman in her 50s, a woman by the name of Ayumi Inui, trained to be a diver just 3 years ago because she saw how the numbers of divers was dwindling each year, and it made her sad.
That's a heck of a reason to join up.
Yep.
Wow.
And while the numbers of divers will probably continue to fall, local organizers are hopeful that they will still be able to maintain this festival by asking people in the area and beyond to help participate. This way that even if the tradition of free diving just becomes a hobby, the intangible heritage won't be completely forgotten.
I had this weird thought. I mean, it's not maybe that weird, but so there was one woman in her 50s who, she saw the situation there and she's like, okay, I'm going to sign up and join. Would you ever consider that yourself? Would you see this situation and be like, all right, that makes me sad. I'm going to join up too.
Yeah, I think I might if it were something that I were really interested in. I know that a lot of my friends have started free diving just for fun. So this might be one of those offshoots that if I were deep into free diving, that might consider also doing as well.
So you would also want to have some interest in actually doing it, right? Not just feeling sad about somebody else's situation. Yeah, so I am assuming Ayumi Inoue also has some interest in free diving, right?
Yeah.
Because that would be amazing to just be like, I have zero interest in this whatsoever, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and if it's one of those things that you grew up seeing people do, and you're seeing the tradition die out, I would definitely step up for something that was part of my childhood.
Right.
And I would definitely learn to do it as well, just so that the tradition would continue.
My second part of that question is, can we do it as men? I wonder.
Men can do it,
right.
But in Korea as well as other places, they just found that women, the physiology of women just works better at deep sea diving.
There we go. Cool. I don't know what the reason for that is, but I'm sure there is a reason behind that. Very interesting. All right. Well, I tell you what, this is a perfect time to take a quick song break and a pertinent song break. The song is going to be Ghost Town by The Specials, and then we'll be back with Chris and more Need to Know. not even as a backup. Just remove the steering wheel, remove the pedals.
Yes.
So, oh man, I don't like the idea of that. And I saw, it reminds me, I think it's the movie I, Robot, the recent version of that, where there's like a scene where there's like this car that goes out of control
Yeah.
because somebody hacks it. I've got too many fears about this. So obviously, there's a lot to work out. How close is this technology to being ready?
Well, I wouldn't expect anything anytime soon. Many experts say that there are just too many factors for the technology to take care of.
Right.
There are too many things that can go wrong, too many decisions to be made that to be programmed into a computer by any one person. University of Florida paper released just recently, I think 2 months ago, in the journal Nature, suggested that self-driving cars are in fact safer than human drivers, but only in perfect conditions, which means bright sunlight and driving straight.
Oh, so literally only straight, no turns.
No turns. According to the study, the cars are 5 times more likely to crash in low light conditions and at night, and twice as likely to crash when they are turning.
So don't try them out here in Busan. There's like no straight streets. So
Yeah, there are
there's
no
constant,
straight streets.
Right.
And while it is the future of driving, it's not quite there yet. But Cruise hopes to propel the self-driving cars and is confident that they will be able to do so by next year.
Okay. Well, I don't know how confident they should be, but all right. Do you take a taxi regularly in the city?
In the city, I used to.
Okay.
Now I've just really taken up walking everywhere for improving my health as much as possible.
How far will you walk? Like, what's the longest you'll walk generally?
Generally, usually my average is like 5 kilometers, but like I will
Not
go
bad.
10, 20 kilometers in a stretch at times if I'm just bored.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, but previously you would take a taxi in that situation.
Yeah, before all the price hikes.
Yeah, you know what? I just had some friends who stayed with me for a couple weeks, and they were so shocked with how low the prices of taxis were
Yeah.
because they live in Ireland.
Yeah, I will say I've gotten rather spoiled with how low
We've
the
gotten-
prices
yes.
are, that I can complain that the prices are a little bit higher than they would be like 2-3 years ago.
And but you're not the only one who complains. Everybody in Busan complains about it, and I assume this is a nationwide thing happening in Korea. Like every city, probably the taxi prices are going up.
Yeah.
But it is still very low compared to other places. My question to you: if they did pilot this, autonomous taxi program here in Busan, would you try it, or would you rather just go with a human?
I would rather just go with a human for a couple reasons. Even if the technology was perfect,
Yeah.
I like the idea of somebody making money, actual person making money, and not just a giant corporation. So giving that money to a real person instead of just paying for an autonomous vehicle who funnels their money to a corporation is much more preferable in my opinion.
Gotcha. I understood. Chris said it all. You got 2 reasons right there. Mainly also because of the safety, right?
Yeah, safety now.
Safety also.
But if it was perfect, still keeping people employed.
Right, keeping people employed as well. Like because that's another thing that people worry about is like if everything becomes autonomous, where do those jobs go, right? So another thing interesting to think about, some things we definitely needed to know on this Monday. Thanks so much, Chris, for coming in. And we're going to take a quick song break. We're going to listen to Fine China by Chris Brown, and we'll be back at 3 p.m.
FM 부산 영어 방송.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전 기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
Hello, I'm Mona Farouk from Egypt. When I moved to Busan in 2014, my daughter was only 12. She came with me and her brother because I started my work as a professor of Arabic language in Busan University of Foreign Studies. I remember how excited my kids were when seeing the first snow in Busan. That year, my daughter started special training for figure skating. In Busan, she was lucky to be able to take serious steps in achieving the dream of becoming a professional ice skater. Many foreigners come to Busan carrying their love for the Korean culture. I was one of those who were fond with Busan's culture, society, history, and all aspects of Korean life. Busan, the city of opportunities. Global City Busan, we are in it together. This campaign is brought to you by BEFM Busan 영어방송.
The time is now 3 o'clock.
You're listening to the 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever, and that song was Birthday Baby, The Girl with No Smile by Joe P. to kick off the second hour of the show. And if you're not familiar, Joe P is apparently New Jersey's favorite artist and producer. And he actually, this was from his debut album, Garden State Vampire. It's this song's Birthday Baby, The Girl with No Smile is the first single from it. And fans have been awaiting the song's release since Joe P first teased it in 2021. Wow. So they've been waiting for a while, and now it signals his forthcoming album available August 23rd. Interesting. The song is an example of Joe's ability to build a soundscape. Each element is delicately woven into the mix to heighten but not overwhelm the arrangement. And it starts with an organic acoustic guitar and vocals, and then it's kind of like the listeners begin the song's journey in Joe P's basement studio alongside him. And then it thrusts us back into the sonic and emotional space we were first introduced to it. And then it comes back to the acoustic guitar at the end. I should have asked Chris before he left. Chris, he's a songwriter himself. Yeah, is arrangement a big part of it, right? Yes. Yeah, arrangement's always a big part of creating a great song. You're listening to us live in the studio in Busan here on this Monday afternoon. It's a hot one. Thanks for joining us. You're listening to us here on BEFM 90.5 in Busan and 103.3 FM in the Gijang, Jeongwon, and Noksan areas. In Seoul, we're on TBS EFM 101.3 FM, and in Gwangju, we're on GFN 98.7 FM. Thanks so much for joining us wherever you might be today. We've got a lot still coming up in hour number 2. Coming up soon, we're going to have our daily list. I'm going to give you 10 tips on how to increase your mental strength. Are these my ideas? No, of course not. I'm not a qualified professional. I found some from qualified professionals, and I thought I'd like to share because mental strength is something I would like to work on in addition to my physical strength. I saw a little bit of the replay there on the NoTube, and I, for some reason, was revealing my powerful arms while I was talking to Chris. I was like, what am I doing? I have zero physical strength. So in addition to physical strength, I want to improve my mental strength. So hopefully these tips will help both you and myself. And speaking of myself, we also have Me, Myself, and I coming up in hour number 2. We're going to talk about, again, this is related to mental strength and resilience, if you want to think about that word as well. These are 7 things that people who have a lot of mental strength never do. So it'll kind of give you things to strive for and things to avoid. So it's a lot of tips today. And you know what? It's Monday. It's a good day to kind of reevaluate, how you want to start off the week. Maybe the morning didn't go exactly as you planned. It didn't for me. My morning, it could have been a little bit better. So, this time of day, it's kind of a good time to reflect and be like, all right, how do I want to straighten out the rest of my week? Here we go. We've got you back. Also, we'll have our perfect playlist today. We're starting a new theme this week. The theme is songs about the moon. And the moon is something that inspires me every time I see it. And it apparently inspires a lot of musicians as well. There are so many songs out there related to the moon, about the moon, inspired by the moon, and we're going to share 2 of those with you today. And I also will be checking your messages throughout the show. I've got a few messages I would like to share related to today's question of the day. The question today is, what is one of your greatest strengths? 가장 큰 장점은 무엇인가요? That time I got it out. All right. That's how you should. Did that sound good? 장점. All right, cool. So first of all, let me see. We've got Choi Hee-suk Nim says, well, I think being frugal whenever I buy items, I use them until they're expired or they're ending. I don't know if it's my upside or not. I think that is a strength. Being frugal, yeah, that means you're responsible. It's a specific kind of responsibility, being responsible with money. And that's not something everybody can do. A lot of people struggle with that. Over the weekend, I was reading a novel written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. You may know him for The Great Gatsby. I was reading Tender is the Night on Sunday because I didn't want to do anything. I finally gave myself some time, and I just kind of got interested in his life because I didn't know much about him. And his life struggle was the opposite of being frugal. He could not save money. He was always struggling to make enough money to make ends meet. And that was a big, big problem in his life. So yeah, being frugal, that's a strength. That's a certain kind of responsibility. Be proud of that, Choi Hee-suk Nim. Be proud of that. That's a good one. I think I don't have that quality. I don't have that strength myself. I got a comment from Dong Hyun Im talking about the song. The song was Ghost Town by The Specials. We played that during our Need to Know segment with Chris. as a break time song. And if you've never heard that song, the Specials are a very influential ska band from the UK from the 1970s. Dong Hyo Nim says, this song reminds me of the movie Snatch, where Brad Pitt starred in that with a ridiculously crazy accent that no subtitles could ever do justice to. Yeah, that song might have come up in that movie. That would not be surprising. It's definitely, the Specials are a hugely influential British band. And if you never checked them out, I highly recommend checking out the Specials. Another message from 1437 Nim says, Hi, Casey. Still humid and scorching, though, as you mentioned, the attitude towards hang in there. The key is to enjoy this time of summer. Yes. And that's okay. So that's also a kind of character strength right there. You know, turning things around, being positive. By the way, as a kind of health conscious person, 1437 Nim says, I am quite interested in learning more about how to be mentally strong, leading to a better, healthy life. Speaking of what strengths I have, I would say I'm punctual. In other words, I prefer to be there on time rather than being late, normally at least 5 minutes earlier than the designated time. That is a strength too, like being punctual. This relates to, just being organized. And also, I think it's about being respectful of other people's time. So kind of thinking about others, being considerate at the same time. So not only just being organized for yourself, that's a strength, being organized, but also considering other people and their time. Is that the reason you do it? Is that why you don't want to be late? To, not upset other people or not make them worry or not make them wait or make them feel this person doesn't care about me? All of the above. I think that's all of those are strengths. Being organized and also being considerate. Yeah, thinking about other people and not wanting to be late. Cool. Thank you so much for the answers. And thank you, Sagak, for joining us, who always listens to this program on the way to work and now is listening at home during the vacation. And thanks for joining the chat there on the NoTube. Have at it. Chat away. I'm enjoying, from time to time, I can kind of peek out of the corner of my eye as well. So thank you so much for joining today. One final message from Neil Nim saying, having no strength is my strength. You know what? One strength that people often struggle with is knowing themselves. So knowing yourself is a kind of strength too, right? It's part of being honest with yourself, right? Knowing your strengths, knowing your abilities, knowing your weaknesses, all of the above. Cool. So thanks for the answers. Keep them coming in. You can reach us here at Shop Gugong Ogong or pound 9050 for 101. You could reach us on Kakao Talk if you search BEFM or Busan영어방송. Add us and then you can send us messages for free that way. You can also reach us via the smartphone app. If you just go to the App Store on your phone, doesn't matter which brand, doesn't matter which App Store, you can search BEFM or 부산영어방송. Download the smartphone app, and then you can log in and leave us some comments as well. And you can also listen to us wherever you go. Yes, you can take us with you with the smartphone app. You can listen to us on the bus, listen to us on the subway, somewhere preferably with air conditioning if you're in Busan today, right? And a lot of places in Korea definitely feeling the heat. For sure. So definitely stay cool out there. We're going to take a quick song break. We're going to listen to Only Way Is Up by Robin Schultz featuring Izzy Bizu, and we'll be back with the Daily List. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. You just heard the song Only Way Is Up by Robin Schulz featuring Izzy Bizu. And now it is time for our daily list. Today's daily list is about how to increase your mental strength with 10 tips. And these are from a bunch of people who do a lot of research on this information. For example, Dr. Dennis Charney is featured in this list, and also an author by the name of Scott Moutz. And before I start, I do want to make a comment really quick to Nur, who says, I indeed look weak, physically speaking. So yes, I don't know why I was showing off the guns when I was talking to Chris, but yeah, physical strength, I'm working on it. I exercised this morning before I went to work. This morning I woke up and did some, not that much exercise, to be fair, but I did a little bit. I started, so I'm working on it, Noor. If you see any progress, let me know. If you see me having better posture, for example, that'll be an indicator, because my posture is awful. But we're not here to talk about physical strength today. We're talking about mental strength. And another word you might want to consider, if you're like, what does that mean, mental strength? Resilience. So in other words, when you face difficulties or setbacks or obstacles, or just even like problems, simple problems, resilience means that you can bounce back. You can not let that problem overcome you. You can overcome the problem, right? So it's not going to defeat me. If you have resilience, nothing will defeat you. Maybe will it, cause problems or setbacks or delays? Sure. But if you have resilience, you will try again and push forward. So these are some tips to do that. Our first one, so we'll go in count up order. I like the simple way, 1, 2, 3, yeah? Instead of counting backwards, it's so hard. 10, 9, 8, what's next? I don't know. So we're going to start with number 1. Find your anchor. All right, what does this mean? Already we got some mysterious language. An anchor is something that holds a boat in place, right? You can think about it that way for yourself. Something that keeps you in place, keeps you focused, keeps you centered, right? So basically what you want to establish is an unshakable core set of beliefs to be your anchor. Some things that you deeply believe in, deeply value. So if you have a significant setback, you can ground yourself in these values, and then this ensures that you are still connected to what truly matters, and kind of like helps you deal with altering the perception of whatever your setback is, or if it's like something like physical even, like if it's a physical problem, where you might be enduring pain, right? Or mental pain or emotional pain. If you have these core values, core beliefs, you can focus on that and not focus on the thing that is causing you trouble. Got me? Okay, I'm moving on to number 2. Number 2, take challenges as opportunities to grow. So when you have a challenging circumstance, challenging situation, try to find a deeper meaning in it instead of just, oh no, another problem to deal with. Because everybody has to deal with stressful events, stress-causing problems. So if you try to find some kind of meaning within that, that'll actually be a benefit to you. It could be anything from a personal tragedy to if you have some kind of setback at work, any kind of situation that causes stress. Look at it as something that will actually benefit you in the long term, not something to make you feel like a victim. And according to the author Scott Moutz, he kind of talked about this with his own personal experience. For his first book, he actually was rejected 13 times. And because of that experience, he was convinced it was not just going to happen. He put 5 years into writing the book, and he felt like that was a traumatic experience, getting no all the time. He spent 5 years of this, and he's like, no, I wasted 5 years of my life. Nobody wants this. Finally, his agent on his last try got a yes, and then he realized that all of that pain that had happened for him, all the mental and physical and emotional turmoil he went through from getting rejected so many times, actually ended up making him a better writer. Because over the course of 5 years, he continued to revise what he was writing. And actually, it enabled him to be better able to handle future adversity. Because just because you get successful one time doesn't mean it's success for the rest of your life, right? Adversity comes in waves, for sure. And as I mentioned before, I was reading a book by F. Scott Fitzgerald over the weekend. And this was a person who now we know his name, or maybe does everyone know his name? I don't know. I think he's a fairly well-known name in American literature. and people associate him with being successful because of The Great Gatsby, but his life was like a really difficult experience, one after the other. He had problems with his marriage. He had problems with his writing career. And he actually had it sounds like kind of a terrible life. He needed to read these kinds of advice to, cultivate mental strength. He actually died believing he was a failure. And then you never know how you turn out in the afterlife, right? Number 3, stay positive. Okay, so this one's kind of pretty straightforward. Being optimistic, they say, actually has a genetic basis, according to Dr. Dennis Charney. But it can also be cultivated. So what that means is some people naturally are just a little bit more positive, apparently, but anybody can work on becoming more positive. And if you can stay positive, there is a strong connection with that and being resilient or bouncing back from problems. It's very easy for most people to succumb to negativity. It takes very little effort. But individuals who swiftly recover also shift back to a positive mindset with equal speed. In other words, if you recover quickly from something, it's easy to kind of associate that with being positive as well. So in other words, trying to shift to a positive outlook will also aid in your recovery, I think is the point of that. Negativity can actually be devastating for your mental well-being. And I think also, this is perhaps maybe more important, it undercuts your motivation, and then it becomes just like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think things are bad, therefore they are bad, and then they really are bad, and then you just keep kind of convincing yourself, right? If you have a positive outlook, on the other hand, that gives you mental strength and makes it easier for you to succeed in life because you'll want to keep trying to do things, right? So the classic example, look at the glass as half full instead of half empty. It basically means your perspective is what matters, right? So trying to stay positive. Number 3, okay. Number 4, find a mentor in resilience or find a role model in resilience. So this could be a teacher. This could be somebody who you know that overcame great challenges. It's going to take some active effort for you to search for role models. But basically what you're doing is you're looking for people that you can emulate. So when you have situations where you're like, oh, I don't know what to do in this situation, I feel overwhelmed, you can think about a person you know who has had difficulty, or think about a person you know who you really respect and admire their life choices, and then you could kind of try to put yourself in their mindset. And this helps to avoid that kind of negative outlook that a lot of us kind of just default to. So according to the author Scott Moutz, the idea for him is to kind of like make your own personal board of directors. So this, think about like who would you like to sit on a board of advisors to give you advice about what to do. And it could take some time, but think about people you really trust when it comes to guidance, people you feel are supportive of you, and people you feel are encouraging. And then you can apply this not only in your personal life, but in your professional life as well. So that's kind of a really interesting idea I've never considered. Something I'm thinking about now. Number 5, confront your fears. Fear is a powerful motivator, but it also can just become stressful, especially over time. If you are constantly afraid, it kind of gets rid of this mental strength. It erodes resilience, especially when you have like fear of the unknown, when you don't know even what you're afraid of. So what you can do, if you have self-doubt and if you have setbacks, instead of seeing them as failure, look at them as just part of life. And remember, there are only 3 true ways to fail. If you quit, if you avoid improvement, or if you never attempt anything at all, those would actually be failures. Minor failures, you can just rename them as a setback and something to just expect as part of your life journey, both professionally and personally, right? Number 6, seek help. There's nothing wrong in looking for help. Emotional resilience means you actually thrive on meaningful connections, and those often provide you crucial support when you have tough times. No one is an island, right? Right? We're not all like, sometimes you may feel like you're alone or completely alone in what you're doing, but is that the case? For most of us, that's not even possible, right? And if you are willing to seek help, this can actually reduce the cost and impact of stressful situations on you. And it also allows more people to kind of flourish and contribute to a more positive society. That sounds like grand ambitions, right? So seeking help should actually be seen as a positive step, not as something as like a failure or like moving backwards. It's actually something that can help enhance your wealth, your health, your well-being, and happiness as well. Yeah, just wallowing in your own pain by yourself, it doesn't do you any good, and it probably makes people worry about you. So you could just contact a friend and just kind of look for positive encouragement. That's a form of seeking help as well. It doesn't have to be anything very deep. It could just be like, hey, you need to reach out to somebody and talk about something. Number 7, I think this is something that's really good advice as well. Learn something new every day. Just make it a habit. So whether that's like reading, I read the news every day. First thing I do when I wake up in the morning. Often it's not news that I want to see. A lot of political news these days, I don't know. However, there's a lot of things, if you go through the news, there's so much that you can learn every day. Also just reading books, being informed and entertained at the same time. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think here the idea is to work on the being informed part. So yeah, just think about what your sources of information are. Make sure you try to learn something new every day. This might help you actually in your job. You never know. If you build up this valuable reservoir of experience, of knowledge, this is something you could tap to in the future that you might not even expect. So very cool. Number 8, work on yourself. And here we switch to the physical, actually. According to Dr. Greg Ford, who's actually related with the physical therapy field, motion is lotion. That's words to live by. Exercise yields favorable impacts not only on your body, but also on your mood and your self-esteem. So what's his name? Dr. Dennis Charney, right? Dr. Dennis Charney says when he's confronted with a challenging issue, he kind of, after exercising, reconsiders it. He does a little exercise first, and that kind of is like a reset. Exercise, when you make that decision to exercise physically, as I should, Nura's telling me I should work on it, you're deciding to put yourself first, and you're actually working on yourself physically, and this is something that will be a great habit and a great starting point for every day. So I'm assuming they're talking about morning exercise, right? Just start your day the right way. Number 9, forgive yourself and keep your chin up. So building resilience would have a good chance of success if you do away with negative self-talk, but it becomes doubly difficult when your mental energy is consumed by self-criticism instead of acknowledging imperfections and embracing the opportunity to move beyond the past. That's a whole lot of language. What do they mean? In other words, you're wasting a lot of energy, a lot of mental energy by criticizing yourself with a lot of negative thoughts. So try to break that cycle. Blaming yourself, to a point when you want to learn from something, okay, I did something wrong. I want to not make that mistake again. Okay, cool. But at some point you have to forgive yourself and be like, all right, we are all human. We all make mistakes. There's no reason to criticize myself continuously, right? So yes, forgive yourself, move on. Last one, nurture your unique strengths. And this is what I was asking for you today. What are your unique strengths? Reflect on your past experiences. Know what you're good at. And especially when it comes to your family relationships, your work relationships, your personal relationships, accept constructive criticism, especially from people you really trust and respect, and also kind of assess yourself. Assess your goals, try to set realistic ones, and track your progress as well. So there's a lot you can learn about yourself, but you also have to kind of keep it in mind and keep track of it, right? And especially if you want to set realistic goals, you need to know what your strengths are and what strengths you should improve as well. So there we have it. That is today's daily list. Those are 10 tips to help you build mental strength. We're going to take a quick song break. We're going to listen to Unchained by Stone Sour, and we'll be back with Me, Myself, and I. You're listening to the 2 p.m. Reboot with Casey McKeever, and the song you just heard was Unchained by Stone Sour, and that, of course, was a cover of a Van Halen song, also called Unchained. And now it is time for Me, Myself, and I. We're going to talk about mental strength a little bit more, but this time, things to avoid if you want to, be mentally strong. And sometimes this is kind of maybe the easier way to do it. It's like, think about things that you already do and like, oh, stop doing that. So these are 7 things that people who are mentally strong never do. And this comes from Scott Moutz, who's a speaker, a trainer, and he's actually studied and trained mentally strong leaders for decades and written a recent book on the subject. So this comes from his research and experience. And mental strength is about what you basically must have the discipline to say and do and to not say and do. So it kind of works both ways. So number one, one thing that people who are mentally strong never do, they don't wilt in the face of setbacks. You know what wilt means, right? Like in this heat, you could easily wilt. Flowers wilt, right? They just kind of crumble, right? So if you have setbacks, don't wilt. In other words, something is going to knock you down at some point in the day, whether it's today, whether it's tomorrow. You never know when it's coming. Something will be unexpected and just be like, wow, I didn't see that coming. But you have to kind of get back up, right? That's the idea. And if you also make mistakes, don't look at it as like a big mistake. Look at it as a misstep. So in other words, these things will happen perhaps slightly in the wrong direction for this moment, but okay, you can correct your course. So instead of focusing on things that are knock you down or mistakes you've made, look for opportunities to grow and learn, especially when you're facing adversity. Stay focused on the best way forward. So yeah, don't wilt, don't crumble, don't fall down. If you do, get back up. Very simple. Number 2, people who are mentally strong never get caught in the static trap. So what is the static trap? Static trap means like you fail to admit that there is a problem. So in other words, you're being static about it. The opposite of static is dynamic, right? So static means like not changing. So if there's a problem, you ignore the signs of trouble, you do nothing about it. You're like, oh, there is no problem. Another way you can be in the static trap is making excuses and pointing fingers to blame others. And then when the issue is finally acknowledged, right? So, okay, it's unavoidable, it's a problem, but you don't take credit, you don't take the proper blame for it. You make excuses, you blame other people as well. Another problem with the static trap is you continue to be complacent or move too slowly to address the real problem. And again, remaining static, not changing, not adjusting, not being flexible, even though it's very obvious that something has gone wrong. Problems can actually be a lot of work and a lot of hard work, but mentally strong people are not daunted by that. They recognize that there are consequences of letting an issue fester, so they do not deny that problems exist. They don't bury their heads in the sand. They quickly move into problem-solving mode. So the upside of this one, don't wait too long, right? So do not wait too long when you got a problem. Just nip it in the bud, as they say. Quickly get it solved as quickly as possible. Number 3, the mentally strong people avoid mistakes of motive. So obviously, just because you're mentally strong doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. You make mistakes too, but you acknowledge them, you learn and you grow from them, and do not repeat them. However, mentally strong people also never make a mistake of motive. So what does that mean? That means they don't do things that are ill-intentioned, like claiming credit for somebody else's work, or perhaps doing something that's not quite legal or not ethical. So if you have the situation, if you're feeling motivated to do something that's, it's not going to be helpful, it's purely out of self-interest, take a moment, ask yourself, does my intent, if I do this thing, is this something with integrity or is it not? Is this something I'm going to regret later? Cool. Then don't make that mistake. Okay, so mistakes of motive are things you always want to avoid. Number 4, people who are mentally strong never get too wrapped up in getting respect. They just earn it. So this is something I have a problem with this one. I have a problem. Sometimes if you feel like you deserve respect or you have earned respect and you don't get it, it just makes you feel kind of like, what is wrong with these people, right? You maybe see somebody who's like, I expected to get some kind of positive feedback, or I expected to get some kind of, I don't know, just like a nice mention, or just to kind of be treated nicely. And if you don't get it, you focus on that like so deeply where you can't think of anything else. Avoid that. If you're mentally strong, forget about that. That's not doing you anything. Instead, they use something called the give, resist, exude framework to focus on actions that will ultimately earn them respect. So you can ask yourselves, like, for example, what can I give? It's really much smarter to focus on giving more than you get. Share praise, share credit, share knowledge, all of that freely. Always put in extra effort. If you give your word, keep it. And don't expect respect if you don't give it to others. So don't be a hypocrite, right? If you don't show respect to other people, don't expect it coming back to you. Another question to ask is, what should I resist? For example, credit grabbing, gossip, negativity, blaming. Those are things you want to stay away from. Exude, what should I exude? What should I put forth? Professionalism, accountability, mastery, transparency, authenticity. Cool. So if you kind of go through this checklist, if you go through the list of give, resist, exude, cool. Probably you're going to receive a lot of respect. This is something I want to work on myself. Yes. Yeah, I need to work on that one. Number 5, mentally strong people do not over or underestimate their skills. Being mentally strong doesn't mean you believe you're great. It doesn't mean you think you know everything. And instead, it actually means you kind of tamp down your belief in yourself in areas where you actually excel. That's not good either. So that's another negativity, like not viewing yourself honestly, right? So instead, mentally strong people accurately assess themselves in either way, whether it's things they're good at or things they're not good at. If you overestimate your skills, you might be unprepared for something that you take on, right? Or you might even be overconfident, and that's something you don't want to be, especially to other people, right? Also, if you are not good at something, be honest about it, be thoughtful about it, and maybe this is something that you could seek help for. If you want to take on a project and you still feel like you deserve to do it, but you might not be exactly prepared for it, that's cool. It's a great learning experience as well. Maybe enlist some help in doing it. Number 6, mentally strong people are not wildly inconsistent. So if your behavior and decisions fluctuate a lot for no rhyme or reason, that creates uncertainty. People kind of become confused about what to expect from you, and they might start to see you as unfair even. So being inconsistent doesn't help you, and it doesn't help other people and how they see you as well. So try to not to act on unhelpful impulses. Try to manage your emotions so that your feelings don't translate immediately into words and actions. So in other words, you need to filter a little bit, right? You kind of have to filter through your ideas and choose the ones that you know will be the right things to do and or say. And number 7, mentally strong people do not try to please everyone all the time. I got to work on this one as well. Constantly trying to please everyone around you can cause you to put up false fronts, hold back, also bury your authenticity. All of that can quickly lead to burnout. Instead, mentally strong people do and don't try to be everything to everyone in the world. Start with yourself. Make sure you set healthy boundaries that allow you to take care of your own needs too, and you'll find a better balance. You'll feel more confident, and you'll be able to help others in a more authentic way. So sometimes you have to say no, right? You can't please everyone all the time. That's for sure. So that's going to do it for today's Me, Myself, and I. We're going to take a quick song break. We're going to listen to She Calls Me Back by Noah Kahan, and we'll be back with our perfect playlist. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. You just heard She Calls Me Back by Noah Kahan, and now it is time for our perfect playlist. This week we've got a theme, songs about the moon. And the moon has definitely inspired everything from literature to art and, of course, music. So we've got 2 songs today that have been inspired by the moon. The first song is The Moon's a Harsh Mistress by Glenn Campbell. And that makes the moon, is it a positive light? I'm not sure. Jimmy Webb is one of the great modern songwriters, and his song The Moon is a Harsh Mistress is a shining example of lyrical prowess. Though she looks as warm as gold, the moon's a harsh mistress. The moon can be so cold. Ouch. Numerous star performers had covered this song by Jimmy Webb, including Judy Collins, Linda Ronstadt, Joan Baez, Joe Cocker. The definitive version, though, was the one by Glenn Campbell for his 1974 album, Reunion, The Songs of Jimmy Webb. Our second song is Once in a Very Blue Moon by Nancy Griffith. And Pat Alger is actually a respected country music songwriter whose compositions have been covered by the Everly Brothers, Garth Brooks, and Crystal Gale. One of his sweetest songs proved to be a seminal song for Nancy Griffith. She recorded Once in a Very Blue Moon, which was the title track of her 1984 album. She later named her orchestra actually after the song, so it obviously did well for her career. Once in a Very Blue Moon has been covered also by Mary Black and Dolly Parton. So our 2 songs for today in the perfect playlist, we've got The Moon's a Harsh Mistress by Glenn Campbell, followed by Once in a Very Blue Moon by Nancy Griffith. Welcome back to the 2 p.m. Reboot. You just heard the song Once in a Very Blue Moon by Nancy Griffith. And before that was The Moon's A Harsh Mistress by Glenn Campbell. And those were our two songs for today's perfect playlist, Songs About the Moon. And we'll have Songs About the Moon coming up for you each day this week, right? So be inspired. The moon, it inspires all kinds of lunacy even. So yes, the moon is a very powerful thing for sure. Thank you so much for sending in your messages today. I learned about all kinds of people's different strengths out there. It sounds like we all have different ones too. And I certainly, there's a few I would like to improve for myself. Multitasking, for example. Wow, that is like one of my biggest failings. You can see, anytime I have to like go to multiple things in here, I'm like, I like to focus on one thing at a time. But it's often difficult to do that these days, right? So good skill to have for sure. And definitely a strength. But now it is time to wrap up the show. I've been your host, Casey McKeever. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday afternoon. We're going to play one more song for you. I was just looking at the tour dates for Massive Attack. They're back on tour. So if you want to go see Massive Attack, they'll be touring around. Mostly it looks like Europe and then the United States, but who knows? They could head this way. Our last song is going to be Teardrop by Massive Attack. And we'll be back tomorrow at 2:05 p.m. Have a great Monday and stay tuned for Your Busan.